We're kicking off a brand new month, June 2025, the final stretch of quarter two, and the markets are already moving on some massive headlines. Bitcoin has just printed its highest monthly close in history, and it's happening right as Trump media reportedly purchases over $2 billion worth of Bitcoin to hold as a treasury asset. This isn't just a headline, this could be the beginning of a shift in how major corporations approach crypto. And it's not happening in isolation. The spot ETF flows are picking up, equities are at key levels, and across the board, we're seeing signals that could shape the next leg of this cycle. So whether you are invested in cryptocurrency or the traditional markets, this is one of those weeks you don't want to overlook. If you haven't already, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. My name is Paul Sampson, and this is DataDash. If you're looking for a serious edge in these markets, DataDashPro.com is where you're going to find it. There you're going to get access to both sides of the DataDash ecosystem. You'll find Nick's Dash Report newsletter, which is a monthly breakdown of the macro landscape featuring in-depth research across crypto, equities, commodities, and more, complete with high conviction trade ideas, as well as the Traders Club, which is our private community where I share all of my personal analysis, trade setups, educational content, and exclusive member updates throughout the week. So whether you're focused on short-term trading or building a long-term investment portfolio, this is where we keep our finger on the pulse of what really matters. Now, here's the best part. You can actually bundle both of these and get full access to everything we have to offer: macro insights, tactical trade ideas, and direct community support. Be sure to head on over to DataDashPro.com and join the bundle today. This is the full DataDash experience. All right, folks, Bitcoin has closed the highest monthly candle close it has ever closed in history at, depending on which exchange you're looking at, around $104,000. This is now our highest candle closure, taking out the previous high, which was about $102,000 set in place in January of this year. And a big question on everybody's mind is, are we going to see a similar situation that we saw back in this time period over here back in 2021, where we had our highest candle monthly closure? We came up and made a new higher candle monthly closure in the end of 2021, only to have a substantial correction, really a bear market that came out of that. Looking at this now in the same fashion, we had our monthly candle closures back here in the beginning of the year. We've now come up and closed higher at the time. Is this just the same setup where we've come up and we've gotten everybody really excited at these highs and we just roll over again? We're going to take a look at a couple things today, as we generally try to do on these more macro style Monday uploads. And the first thing I do want to take a look at is what the current news catalyst that I think is kind of pairing up with the rally that occurred over the weekend, basically, at least for Bitcoin. And this is where we see Trump's media officially signing over $2 billion deal where they're going to essentially purchase Bitcoin and hold it as a treasury asset. Now, this isn't the first time that Bitcoin has been in the headlines wrapped around the current administration with the strategic reserves and all types of different overall integrations. I think we can all agree that this has definitely been the most that cryptocurrency has been brought up from a sitting president, at least of the United States, and especially in a very short period of time. It's almost daily. I feel like we're getting something in the cryptocurrency realm being brought up from the higher government officials, whether it's our own here in the United States or even across the globe as well. So in its own, is it something that's going to take the price higher and mean that we're going to see substantial growth from this exact moment? I don't necessarily think it is. I think that just in the grand scheme of things, when we look back, this will just be something that, along with the other really bullish news catalysts that I think are out there, such as the strategic reserves and the ETF products and many other countries actually adopting the cryptocurrencies, such as, and especially Bitcoin primarily, I think it's something that'll add into the overall price action over time. And then, of course, it came right into the weekend here. So maybe give a little short-term excitement, but probably not the number one catalyst that's just going to catapult the Bitcoin price from this point. So as we begin the month of June, we now have the information from the ETF products from the month of May here. And I wanted to point this out because it's incredible to see the amount of Bitcoin that was just added to the ETFs just in the month of May, while Bitcoin traded really between $80,000 to $100,000. So as we can see here, the ETFs added over 50,000 Bitcoin in the month of May. The overall ETFs hodl, so they're holding on for dear life, a record of over 1 million almost 1.4 million Bitcoin worth $145 billion at current price. And the USA is dominating the market share in ETF holdings with a astonishing 87.5% of the market share. Now, interesting enough, we have basically from January of 2024, we have quarterly increments here as far as reporting goes. And then at the end of Q1 of 2025, we've got a little month over month action until we basically close the month of June, closing out Q2. So as you can see here, I mean, it's just been steady increases across the board with back in January, 600,000 Bitcoin, 800,000 Bitcoin at the end of March in 2024, just slightly higher at the end of June last year, broke 1 million as we closed out the year of 2024, holding right about the same as we came into Q2. And then here's where it gets a little interesting. We went from pretty much holding steady again to adding 25,000 Bitcoin month over month from March to April. And then from April to May, we added another 50,000. And I just wanted to highlight one comment I just noticed over here to the side where it states that institutions are quietly building while retail chases noise. Now, it must be said, this is a very macro outlook here. So looking at the current price action of $105,000 Bitcoin, seeing 50,000 Bitcoin being added in the month of May, seeing the growth from January of 2024 until now, these things do indicate, in my opinion, that we will continue to see this growth over the next coming years here, which is going to more than likely mean that Bitcoin's price action will continue to rise on the overall average, right? Now, the institutions, unlike a retail investor, they don't need to get their return on investment very quickly. And really, the retail investor shouldn't be aiming for that either, but unfortunately, that's just what most people do, right? So it must be said that even though the institutions are piling in heavily, it seems, at these levels still, they are able to average into this market, hold out for specific downturns, meaning if we saw a 10, 15, 20, 30% correction tomorrow, more than likely they will still be acquiring more Bitcoin at those levels in the attempts to build their positions. So just because we're seeing these massive inflows does not mean that we're completely out of the woods on a pullback in the nearer term, but the overall picture here, the grand scale, is relatively bullish in my opinion, and I do anticipate that this market will continue higher over time. And just wanted to add on the strategy tracker here, formerly MicroStrategy. Just wanted to point out their holdings as a whole, because it is another thing that just when you see this on a graph or on a chart, it is just a little bit mind blowing when you see it. I think everybody knows pretty quickly that Michael Saylor is obviously a huge Bitcoin bull. He takes any advantage that or any chance he can to acquire more Bitcoin. If it's buying it at the lows, buying it at the highs, buying it in the middle, he is going to buy it. And a perfect example of how those institutional players can stomach the shorter term pullbacks and really kind of come in at all times of the market to accumulate more. And with strategy specifically, it's just pretty notable here that they basically have been really hitting the gas and pouring some fuel on the fire in these last few quarters here, basically since the end of 2024. So really have upped the ante, so to speak, basically over doubling their holdings here since Q3 of 2024. So when we look at that overall market as a whole, and you see the already finite amount of Bitcoin and the amount that is going daily to these institutions, be it from strategy just accumulating on any chance it can get, or these ETF products that have been filling aggressively for over the last 15 months here. It is just at some point something's going to give in that sense, in the sense of supply and demand, where we're going to have more demand than we do supply with the Bitcoin that's available at the overall market. All right, so let's break down the current Bitcoin price action. So right now we're trading, once again, around 105,000 time of recording. We have a new all-time high sitting at 112,000, give or take. And a couple of key regions to be aware of right now is that our 50-day EMA, which is the exponential moving average, so it's the average price in the last 50 days, it does sit at about $100,000 flat. And then the 200-day EMA, which is another key region, where if we were to come back down, these two areas would be looked to as some major supports, especially if we were to align with other areas for some confluence. And that region is back down to about $90,000. Now, theoretically, we've come down and we've put in a pretty decent series of lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. And then now we have since then put in a series of higher highs and higher lows, forming a uptrend here. And truly, even if we were to see a pullback back down to this 100,000, potentially even that $90,000 200-day moving average, there's also a untapped monthly pivot right here, which is the average of price from the month of April, likely to have been met in May. Doesn't necessarily have to always hit in that following month, but it is sitting down here untapped. It's also basically our region back here on the chart of a back test of these highs. So definitely something to be aware of here. And even if we were to see something along those lines where we did come down and come to these regions, and this is a more, once again, macro outlook, maybe this is the next couple coming weeks, months, this would still be at this point now looked at as a potential higher low. All right. So now we have an uptrend in play. We could come down to as low as that 90K, let's just say 88 to 90, and still put in an overall bullish structure here for continuation and overall be looking up to the upside. And honestly, just taking a little zoomed out approach here and just simply looking at our EMAs, our exponential moving averages, we can see here that ever since we really began this overall bullish market structure, that we've been holding these areas really well as our key supports as the overall market has continued higher. So overall, still think that this market is very bullish. I think that we will see bullish continuation to the upside towards targets of $135,000 to $150,000 for Bitcoin. The key areas for me still pretty much remains this 88,000. I'd say really up to 93 as far as a deeper retrace would go currently, with that $100,000 to be aware of. This is also right in line with a very simple golden pocket retracement, which if we take a Fibonacci retracement, assuming this is our high at the moment, normal retracement down to the 0.618 to 0.65 area. This is a very common area you'll see on a technical pullback. If we were to see something along these lines, it'd be another about 16% drop in Bitcoin here. So locally would not be great. Once again, this is a higher time frame idea. We could very well still range around these areas here, then get a drop down maybe in a few weeks, even a month or so. But as long as we are holding above this area here, I still remain bullish on Bitcoin to the upside. Now, JP Morgan had come out recently and said that Ethereum's upgrades had failed to increase network activity, which insinuates that's why we see this stagnation in the price action, and that potentially that Ethereum is really not going to see any more sizable upside, right? One thing about JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, at least that will always stand out to me, is that I remember watching these guys back in 2017, literally come out and call crypto a scam, call Bitcoin a scam, call all these things scams when it was pretty much the most opportune time to enter. And realistically, back then, we didn't have the ETF products, or it wasn't listed on the CME futures quite yet. And there was not a big way or an easy way for these institutions to essentially pick up these products. If I had to guess, if I'm being honest, I truly do believe that back in the day when Bitcoin was hundreds of dollars and Ethereum's $20 and the same time frames when they were calling these items a scam, I just have to truly imagine that they were picking these things up hand over fist back then even, and that they most likely hold way more than they even suggest right now. But that's just a theory of mine. So I bring that up because obviously, yes, JP Morgan's pointing out that there's been some failed upgrades, or the upgrades have failed to just deliver this extreme network activity. Just recently, we went through the Pectra upgrade, really just a few weeks ago. And since then, had almost 100% rally out of Ethereum. So let's take a look at the price action here, because like anything, nothing goes straight up in one line. We've seen a pretty sizable move to the upside. We've been consolidating. And let's just see what we could anticipate next. So once again, we saw Ethereum come down. We ended up taking out some sizable lows from back in 2023, and only to see the price action regain quite a bit of that drop really quickly. And then since then, we've just pretty much been trading sideways. Now, yes, we saw a sizable decline leading up to this, but overall led to a 100% increase over the last few weeks. And that was right around the time that we got those Pectra updates, which apparently to JP Morgan doesn't seem to be giving the network enough activity. But pair that with just a technical move here. Once again, nothing goes straight up in a line. This was a really big move here. We're consolidating sideways. And realistically, looking even at just a simple our 50-day and our 200-day EMAs here, which the 50-day is actually this line right here, which we blasted right through, and have actually been sitting right on top of a 200-day moving average holding it as support for the last couple of weeks here, which is a very bullish sign. On top of that, we've been holding our quarterly pivot, which was also a pretty big target of ours from a bullish harmonic setup. This was a 0.382 retracement area. So this is a really big area to be holding above. And overall, I still believe that ETH is going to see more of a move to the upside, at least challenging into this $3,100 level in the near term. And then once that region is flipped, we can reevaluate and look for new areas here. But so far, really bullish structure here locally. Of course, we've done nothing to materialize an overall uptrend as far as reclaiming the previous highs. But in general here, the market structure does not look bad in my opinion. And I do want to point out that we have a new month. So we have a new monthly pivot. So the average price of last month, which is likely to be met this month, just on a shorter term outlook here, is this 2355 area. So one big area I've been really harping on is the 2440, and coming down and closing daily candles below that really wouldn't look amazing as far as losing that and then looking for probably more of a deeper pullback. But I will say that very short term, just similar to how we had these wicks right here, right? And once again, I'm looking at the daily time frame. If we were to pull back and tag our monthly pivot here, maybe even come back and hit the 50-day moving average again, maybe they align here around this 2355. That is something that I'll be noting near term here. That still wouldn't be anything out of the ordinary. This is probably our 0.382 retracement also, if I had to guess, from the overall low to the high. It's very close here at 2250. So I would say that in a sense of getting a pullback, if we drop down, well, we've always got to be aware of that gold pocket, which is once again a 61.8 to 65% retrace down below us. When you get these really strong impulse moves up, sometimes you only get a pullback down to your 0.382. All right, and then you get the continuation to the upside. So in this case, and it's also sitting right with our 200-day moving average. It's also sitting right around our monthly pivot. I'm not trying to give exact dollar amounts here. I'm kind of creating a little region. So around this 2250 to 2355, if we were to dip our toes into this region and come back up, and once again, that 2440 is really the key area I'd like to see held on that daily basis still. Daily time frame here. And you can see we have not closed a single day down below that 2440 since the 11th of May, ever since we got above it, basically. So overall, still anticipating higher. Short term may see down about 2250 before we get there. This would be a very technical retracement here, same as Bitcoin, same as anything else that we'd see in this market, right? So potentially that gets paired up with a little news. I mean, this is not a huge pullback. If we see it's 10%, which in the traditional market would be a sizable pullback, but in crypto, I mean, that's a fairly reasonable pullback, or just even a just current ranging activity that is something we see time and time again. But overall, the market structure on Ethereum is still bullish, so I want to hammer in on that. Brief update on the overall altcoin market as well. This is the total two, so this is everything in the crypto market except for Bitcoin. So this is Ethereum and under, right? So basically, we have a textbook, in my opinion, cup and handles pattern with potential for a major move to the upside here. We saw a perfect retracement down into that gold pocket here from the overall low to the current high, and have since then broken out of this region here and have been trending sideways as well. Now, realistically, we could do a lot of things in this region until we get to above 1.33 trillion. That's the more of a confirmation that we're going to see this move above. Obviously, from there, we'd look for the break of the overall high, and that's where you'd look for that expansion and the measured move. But that's what I'd be looking for the altcoin markets. And this is something I've been paying close attention to for quite some time. And while, to be fair, we've seen many of them locally here, don't get too wrapped up in golden crosses or death crosses generally, but do want to just add on a little bit of potential confluence here. That not only do we have a new monthly pivot here for the overall total two, which we're coming down, we're hitting it right now, but we're also getting our 50-day coming back above our 200-day, what's known as a golden cross, and generally that leads to more upside as well, right? So not perfect, not a guarantee, nothing in trading or investing is, but just wanted to add that little piece on there. And to be clear, this would be a overall move in the altcoins in general, right? Like this is not just Ethereum seeing a sizable move. This would be probably the top 100 coins getting a really nice rally. And then obviously there's going to be a ton of other winners across the way. Maybe not the entire altcoin market flows up, but it would be a good thing for crypto holders. All right, and speaking of a golden cross, looking at the SPY, which is the ETF that runs against the S&P 500. Another refresher here, we got that big drop back in April, of course, with the tariff woes across the markets there, right into our golden pocket support down at about 482. Since then, we've rallied back up into our Q1 range and have remained pretty flat in the last few days here, right? So it's kind of almost like a little too eerie where the SPYs just kind of coasted a bit here. So getting that bullish crossover right here, that golden cross, so to speak, where we got the 50-day crossing down below the 200-day and then now crossing back up, right, with this huge move here, generally leads to more continuation to the upside. We still have our quarterly NPOC, which is a untapped point of control. That's a high volume level that's basically left over here from Q1. Sits at about $602. So that's about $6,000 on the S&P. And truthfully, while we're pretty much just range bound in this region, potentially coming all the way back down towards our EMAs here, when we do see a sizable move to the upside here, this is pretty much our next box area to get through, which is a really simple one because it's pretty much just the all-time high at 613 to 620. And if we do push through this area and breach back into new all-time highs on the SPY, the next major area I'm targeting is up into this box area here, which is about 693 to 750. That would be about $7,000 to $7,500 for the S&P 500. As always, folks, the goal here is to stay ahead of the moves that matter, whether it's major headlines like Trump's media's Bitcoin purchase or the subtle shifts in the ETF flows and the broader market structure. If you would like deeper insights beyond these videos, be sure to check out DataDashPro.com. That's where you can join our private traders club, where I post real-time setups, analysis, and educational content. And if you want the full picture, don't miss out on Nick's Dash Report newsletter. You can actually bundle the both of them for the complete DataDash experience. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video. And until then, everybody, cheers.